Start a small business. No need to work 40, 50 hours a week, slaving your life away. Obtain financial freedom, be your own boss, and create your own destiny. Moguls are the new superstars. The path to country club membership and a leased Mercedes-Benz is paved in gold as you take your business trips to Orlando or Vegas. Validation from your in-laws is just an LLC and Facebook business page away. At least, that's what they tell you anyways. Through social media, websites, and targeted ads, you're sold an image. Small business owners seem to walk on water. You'd think you're the last person on earth working a regular job with a regular boss. But there's trouble in paradise, and its name is in over your head. People start looking to start their own business, don't know what they don't know. But that's why we started our Small Business Confidential podcast, to share what we've learned from years of experience. There's not a lot of people in on this, so remember, dear podcast listeners, you heard it here first, off the record, on the QT, and very hush-hush.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Riley with A'marri and Brook, and we're talking about where's my money? What do you do when people stiff you? So, Brook, I'm gonna start out with you. You're the controller of this company. What do you do when people don't pay you?
Send the mafia, send Luca Brazzi.
Luca Brazzi? Wouldn't that be nice?
No, I think, you got to have a plan in place. And I think a lot of times, a lot of these, I'm always struck by when I will hire like a HVAC guy to come service my furnace or exterminator out. Those guys now, they got their iPads out, they're done, you're there, you're like, okay, you need your credit card. So I think you got to have that plan in place. I think it's tricky if you're in the contracting field or the consulting field and you don't have access to meet your client with an iPad and a credit card, but at least you could do some things to like prevent stuff like that. You get a big deposit, you could get draws laid out, have a credit card on file, have them sign something, be like, hey, if this payment's not due within 3 business days of the due date, we have the authority to, charge your card. So I think you can do stuff to at least prevent, and, as much prevention as possible. I think at some point, if, they're always being late, they don't give you their credit card, say, fine, I'm putting a lien on your house, or I'm suing you.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say sue. I'd just say put a lien on. That gets their attention. But I think nowadays, a lot of people out there, unless you're in the restaurant business, but when you're in real estate and you're renting to somebody, you're obviously looking at what their credit score is. And if their credit score needs work, just pass. Don't even go down that road. Because unless they're upcoming and saying they're actually explicit about why it needs work. I had a medical bankruptcy. I got hurt and I didn't have the money to pay for, the surgery or whatever. So I got dinged. But you can see that you can call my landlord. I was making payments every month regularly. These are the people I rented from. I mean, if they're volunteering that stuff for you, that means a lot. So even their credit score is below 600, but then you do a deeper dive and you see, there's a little bit more there. But you're not going to do a deeper dive unless they volunteer why their credit score is so bad. That's one thing I've learned. What's your thoughts, A'marri?
It's a great exercise in studying the profile, like what you were talking about of the customer. Like we were mentioning before we started recording about what's the history of the customer. We've got some long-time customers who was like, we kind of know their tendencies, paying bills, and that's marked down. Some people who are more newer and don't have a long established history of working with us. It's like, okay, we need a deposit or just pay for the entire thing up front. So we're working these things into the structure of how we're even going about this instead of just being purely reactive and getting this stuff done, sending people out and in the hopes of, I hope they pay us.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want any hope and pray here about what this is about. I need my money to meet payroll. I need my money to pay the mortgage and whatever. But It's nothing personal. It's business. And if they can't figure that out, if they're not going to be empathetic to you, then that's not somebody you want to work with. You want to rent to, or you want to have any kind of long-term relationship with. I mean, we have customers, so we just mark with an X, right, A'marri? You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, because we need these people to be flagged with that status X just so they don't get slipped through the cracks of just getting put back on the schedule. They might call us and say, hey, we want you to do, X, Y, and Z. We need an estimate. And when we search them up in our system, they come up as a status X. It's like, hey, no, there's a huge problem.
Yeah. We it takes. I remember when we started doing status X years ago, 10 plus years ago. I remember we had our gutter cleaning business, and which we still do, but these people, we do it in end of November, early December, and we didn't get paid till May. They're just lousy paying bills. Then we started tagging with the status X. The profile of the customer was they need to pay in advance, and I remember a couple people say, well, why do I need to pay in advance? I said, because we're tired of chasing you down with 4 bills. They're like, oh, yeah, right. Okay, whatever. I mean, the lack of awareness with people is staggering when you think about it. What do you think? Your credit's not good because you're getting your cable turned off, or your internet turned off, or you're missing car payments. These people are just like living in a fog. And then you got to ask yourself, how are they going to take care of your house that they're renting from? Right? I mean, are they going to read the estimate? You said, hey, I'm paying the house, but I'm not paying the garage. They go, I thought the garage was included. It says right here, buddy. Oh, well, I'm not happy with that. And, they're just living in a fog. I mean, I think I said this in an earlier podcast, and you've heard this many times. 20, 30 years ago, people were like, they didn't want the garage down, I'll do the garage. All right. House only, no garage. And then, of course, how come you're not painting the garage? And it's because it's not in the estimate. So it's right here, no garage. And they'd say, well, I'm not happy with this, whatever. And, then I started saying, I look at the guy, say, you know what? I'm not happy with this either. What do I got to do? Pin it to your shirt?
Right.
Really? It's bullshit. And I think the 2% club, addition by subtraction, 2% club, you just don't want to work for people like that. You don't want to work for people like that. And you don't want to hire people that are in a fog. No empathy. Can't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, it, like you said too, it takes away time that you could actually be spending on making more money or selling more jobs, or just doing plenty of other things that are actually adding value. When you're spending all this time chasing people down, it's just like throwing money away.
your thoughts, Brooke?
No, I mean, it's just the nature of the reality. I was always struck by, when I was a foreman, I was more involved in like collecting checks and, being at job sites and stuff like that. I just learned that just because someone's driving a BMW and they live in Shaker Heights, Ohio, that does not mean that they're going to be on time with their payments, and vice versa. If you're in a neighborhood not super glamorous and they're driving a used car, most of the time they're the ones who are reminding you, like, okay, like, I got your check. Do you want me to give it to you now? Do you want me to give it to your junior foreman? So don't assume that just because if you have clients who have a lot of money, who are rich, does not mean that they're going to be paying you on time. Most of the time, not all the time, but they'll tend to drag it out or use it over your head to be like, well, you got to make sure you do these touch-ups or do this, and then I'll give you your money. Like, I hated running into that.
Yeah. Well, but then you got to ask yourself, did they have a legit or not?
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, the worst was when they did have a valid, be like, hey, yeah, I'll pay you your draw when you finish what's written on your contract.
Right.
But if the guy's being a dick and he's pointing out touch-ups or splatter paint on his brick house that was there from the previous contractor he hired who screwed up. I remember we had a job like that. I'm not going to say the customer's name, but he hired us to fix a paint job where he hired a pretty lame company.
Because that Calverton, Douglas area.
Yeah. And I took photos of it before we started because there were all these paint splatters. And I was like, you know what? I have a feeling because, it took us like 3 weeks to do, 2-3 weeks. And I remember it came time to the final walkthrough. And the final walkthrough is always when it's like, that's the big one. That's when the final amount is due. And I remember he was like, hey, you got paint on this, you got paint on this. And I was kind of waiting for it. And I was like, no, here's the photo. Here's the time date. This wasn't me. This was that other company. And he was like, okay, yeah, I think you're right. And I was like, yeah,
And
right.
And the thing is, that guy probably knew that. It's amazing. Here's the thing.
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back.
If you enjoy listening to our Small Business Confidential podcast, we're sure you'll enjoy our first podcast, The Cleveland Real Estate Investor. We give outside investors an inside look into the real estate market in Cleveland. Cleveland has been on the rise, and investors from all over see those cheap prices and salivate. Our job is to educate those investors and steer them in the right direction with several years of experience of how to do it right and many examples of how to do it wrong. Find the Cleveland Real Estate Investor podcast on any app you listen to your podcast today.
They don't go from Jekyll and Hyde, all right? For those of you, Jekyll and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll, sweet guy, Mr. Hyde, this psychopath. Nobody goes through this metamorphosis. That when you really look at who you rented to, who you work for, what kind of customer, are they a Karen type customer? I mean, the signals are always there at the beginning. You're just not paying attention. But when you do an after action report and you look at it, you start seeing signs that later, as you get more proficient at running a business, it becomes seeing them right away. It's kind of like that NFL quarterback. We got the young Peyton Manning, okay, his first year. He thinks he's reading the coverage, but the coverage is kind of masked. He throws and there's an interception. So fast forward 10, 12 years later, older Peyton Manning, Omaha. I mean, that line is fruit because the guy's breathing the wrong way and he recognizes he's going to be blitzing them. That's, because he's learned from his mistakes. And I think a lot of times there's signals there, like, did they get back to you on time? When you called them back, they wanted an estimate and you said, hey, I need a few questions answered. And they didn't want to answer the questions. No, I just need an estimate. They don't want to do the work. They're doing that intentionally, subconsciously, but they're doing it intentionally because they want to see if they can control the conversation. So they'll start making these kind of odd demands. Hey, I want you to come on this. I'm only home on Wednesday, right? Or I work till 5. So I can't fill out this rental application, till whatever. I mean, those are signals. What's your thoughts, A'marri?
Yeah, those are signals for sure. And they're also just good opportunities to take that information and wrap it into the process, in our scripts. So, when we're working with Melanie, we're working with Clarice, everyone who is the VAs, everyone who is taking these calls and processing them and forwarding them to the team, they're getting more and more specific and having a larger variety to work with for all these different types of situations. So they don't have to rely on us for all the answers. It's like, hey, if they're saying this, we already talked about that. We know how to handle those types of calls. They go here.
Right. And the VAs, they're just really nice people. They're not used to dealing with dicks. I mean, hey, I'm doing my job. How come you're not treating me with respect?
Right.
And that's puzzling to them. When in reality, well, they're not treating with respect because they're dicks. These are people you don't have a whole lot of familiarity with in your world. But like I said, it's a shark infested. You got people in the rental who rent. I swear to God, our early years renting, I don't know if you remember this, Brooke, way back when, we had some people rent, and I swear to God, they would rent, and the first month would be on time, second month on time, third month would be like, 2 days late. Then it'll be 3 days late. And it's a week late. There's always like a violin story going on. Guess what? It's 2 weeks late. Pretty soon it's like 2 months behind. This does not happen by accident. These people are grifters, and they're actually looking for a place to rent where they can start squatting. To their mind, they're like, hey, we'll be here 6 months rent free.
Yeah.
And
They know the system.
they know the system. They know how to game the system. So if you're not doing, and sure enough, their credit stinks. I mean, is beyond needs work. It's on life support. Their credit. And you know what? And when you talk to these people, sometimes it's a few times I've actually got involved and talked to them. It's kind of funny because they're playing the violin. It's that I don't really care about your dead mom. Okay, give me a credit score. Oh, your kid just got shot. I don't care. Whatever. Where's my money? I don't care. Right?
Give me my money.
Give me my money. I remember 10 years ago, we had a guy working for us. I don't know if you were there, Brooke, but he said he couldn't come into work because his mom went into the hospital unexpectedly. And Michelle went out and got flowers for him. And it turned out his mom wasn't in the hospital. I think his mom called up and said, you seen Johnny? Johnny says he's working here. I go, Johnny's mom? Are you Johnny's mom? I heard you were in life support. So, I mean, it is a crazy world out there. But, money talks, bullshit walks. If you can't come up with the money, then save yourself a headache.
And please save us the headache.
Exactly. Move on. Cut your losses. Move on to somebody else. You don't need that kind of headache. We're not here to save the world. We're here to meet payroll. Or meet our mortgage. All right. Final thoughts on showing me the money. Where's my money? A'marri. Then we'll go to Brooke and
Yep. Deposit. Prepays. Marking people as status X. And, all of those situations need to be put into the cycle of improvement, not just kind of glossed over and moved on. We got to study it, look at it, and, just continue to refine the process.
Yeah, do your due diligence. Brooke?
Yeah, I mean, all that sounds good. And, just follow the patterns. If they're consistently late 1 day, 2 days, turns into a week, 2 weeks, then you're heading towards an iceberg. So you might as well get ahead of it. So, yeah.
Well, I got one final note on it. It just occurred to me. I forgot to bring this up on the body of our podcast. But Wall Street Journal had an interesting story which said that you can call up somebody that owes you money and you have a judgment, and then you could go right to their credit score and tank it. And that's a new twist. And that might be a way of people wake up and say, if their credit score shows that they lost a judgment, guess what? Their interest rates just went up across the board. Okay.
Okay.
We're going to do that with the Pipkins case. So the other thing is you can't be continually calling people with friendly reminders about the money owed. It's like turning a vice. You call them, hey, we sent you out a bill last week. We haven't gotten paid. Can you give us some guidance? What's going on? 2 weeks go by. Now it's like, hey, I don't want to have to go to court. Small claims, we get judgment. It's going to affect your credit score, or we're going to put a lien on or something. But you're always upping the pressure. But I think everybody needs to keep in mind credit score. So We'll end on that note. There is hope when you're getting stiffed. Okay. But the better you do your due diligence, the better you're going to save yourself a potential blow up when you walk into a minefield. And we'll end on that note. Put a little explosion.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, everybody. All right. We'll catch up to you next after Labor Day with Sophie's fall heat shock. We'll talk then.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Small Business Confidential. To support, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also add our podcast to your favorite streaming services. Everything is appreciated, and we'll be back soon with another episode and upload schedule. The person voicing the intro's name is Travis Riley. Thank you, Travis. And the music was done by our engineer, me, A'marri.